Good evening. All right, tonight's discussion, I am going to be Hi, Ellie. You joined me for my live chat tonight. Thank you for the blue heart. Tonight, I am going to be discussing transferable skills to medical coding and AI, and that big question about artificial intelligence. Is this going to take over medical coding? I had talked about this a couple of weeks ago, but it's coming up again. So I'm going to go ahead and address it. And I'm going to read a comment that I got asking about this very thing. And let's see. All right. I hope everybody had a good day. It is Thursday. Oh, thank you. I'm so glad. At least I mean, I wasn't too late. I think. I hope. Maybe y'all didn't notice. Hi, Yvette. Thank you for the blue hearts. Hi, Jamie. Thank you for the blue hearts. All right. So, if you have questions about the topic, be sure to put them in the chat box and I will get to them as the conversation rolls on. Hi, Liz. All right, so if you're brand new to my channel, welcome. I am Blue. I'm a medical coder. Tonight, I am talking about the transferable skills. If you are a brand new medical coder, just new with your certification, and you're wondering what can you offer an employer when you have no experience, we're going to talk about those transferable skills and why and how you should highlight them on your resume. I'm also going to be talking about artificial intelligence. Is it going to take over medical coding? And I'm going to be reading a comment from a viewer. So let us begin. All right. That is awesome, Jamie. Everybody congratulate Jamie. She got a billing job at a doctor's office. It's 2 minutes from her house. That's awesome. Congratulations. I am so glad that you got it. That is amazing. Hi, Tina. Hi, Aurora. Yes. All right. So let's go ahead and start with, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and start with a comment first that I got because we'll get into transferable skills after that. But that is amazing, Jamie. Congratulations. I am very happy for you. I know you're going to do very well. All right. So the comment was about artificial intelligence, right? And it says, I am preparing for the CPC, but some of my friends told me that medical coding will be replaced by artificial intelligence. I am so depressed. I have studied for almost 4 months. There are almost full of negativity around me because of my friends. I'm reading exactly the way they wrote it. I have some doubts. Please clarify me. 1, doctors started coding now that affects our role in RCM or not. I have no idea what RCM means. 2, will AI replace our jobs? When? I want honest reply from the bottom of your heart. And he put a crying face. Here's the deal, guys. First things first. I'm going to say this because I'm blunt and that's what I do. If it is so easy for you to be depressed because your friends, who are probably not medical coders, I'm going to take a wild guess there, that his friends are not medical coders. If it is so easy for them to sway you to getting out of something that you've studied so hard and worked so hard for, this is probably not the profession for you. The reason that I say this is because you're going to run across not just your friends and your family going to be saying negative things, who are probably not medical coders anyway, but when you get into the industry itself, once you make it past passing your certification, getting your first job in medical coding. When you get out into the real world and you start to actually work, now you're going to have to deal with providers who sometimes are not going to be the nicest people to you. Not only that, you're going to have other medical coders who, again, are not always going to be the nicest people to you. Now, you may think, well, Blue, is everybody like you? No, no. Not everybody's like me. I'm an original, okay? That's number one. Number two, you have to develop a thick skin. If I listened to everybody that was saying negative stuff back in 2007, when I was in school studying, I would not be here today with all of you. So my advice to you is to stop listening to people that, number one, are not even medical coders. Number two, don't let other people control your life. These are your friends. This is not your family. These are your friends, your so-called friends. And let me tell you something else. Not everybody who smiles to your face that is your friend is actually excited for you. And I will tell you all this because I'm going to be real with you. Sometimes your friends may be like, well, kind of feeling jealous in a way that maybe you are going to do something with your life. And it takes a lot of guts, guys. It takes a lot of guts. It takes a lot of bravery to do what we do, even just to go to school for it. This is what you're saying to everybody, that I feel when I am going to this school that I'm going to make it through. I'm smart enough to be in this field. This field is for intellectual people, and I'm going to make it through. You're saying that. That is a powerful statement because some people are very threatened by people who are very smart. I know because I get a lot of that feedback here, and I get a lot of that feedback anywhere I go. Do you think I let that bother me? No, I'm never going to let it bother me, and I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to get better because my skin is pretty thick. And when it comes to being in this field, you have to have a thick skin. If you don't have a thick skin, you're not going to make it very far. So again, this is your life, not your friend's life. Unless your friend is going to be, your friends, so-called friends, are going to be supporting you, then by all means, do that. But it's your life. At the end of the day, you worked hard, you studied for 4 months, then you need to get on it and ignore the negative people. And if you're telling them, oh, this is my journey, sometimes you have to move in silence. You have to be able to keep things to yourself so that you can concentrate on your goals. Because other people telling you that you can do this, you can do that, while it's great, sometimes it's not always meant with a full heart, okay? So think about that. Be strong for yourself and get the things done that you need to do. Stop listening to these other people. Stop posting it on Instagram and all these other social media, TikTok and all this stuff. Stop doing that. Concentrate on what you're doing. Number two, with this artificial intelligence, again, people told me back in 2007, oh yeah, artificial intelligence is going to take over. Are you a coder? No. Oh, well, I'm a nurse. I don't care. You're not a coder. That's number one. I'm not listening to somebody that's not a coder. Tell me that. If that was the case, don't you think that nobody would be hiring? However, when you look for job postings, there's tons of medical coding positions. So again, and they even said this when ICD-10 was coming out. Oh, ICD-10's coming out and it's all going to be artificial intelligence and it's all going to take over. Here's the thing. With the invent of new technology like the electronic health record and encoder software and things like that, yeah, the process is sped up, right? Because, oh yeah, we can select the codes here, we can select the appropriate procedure codes there, and it kind of helps, yes. However, the software systems and these electronic health records, they're only as smart as what you're telling them to be. As things update, because this software always has to update, you still have to be able to have a human look at it, because no two doctors are the same, no two patients are the same, not even twins, okay? Everybody has their own deal. And sometimes providers are going to be in a good mood to document, and sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're going to be like, well, I don't feel like documenting today, so you're going to get the bare minimum. And they're going to give you whatever they want to. And then other times it's going to be like a beautiful poetry. So with that said, Not all documentation is going to be the same. You can't streamline documentation no matter how hard you try. Even if you're working with templates, there's always going to be a varying thing. So again, while the system may be able to select codes that are good and some codes that are not so good, you still have to do a lot of that. They still have to have a human eye looking at this. This is why I tell coders all the time. This is why you have to know what you're doing. Because this artificial intelligence, oh, it's going to take over, it's going to do this, it's going to do that. Guys, come on. That would be like a doctor is going to be replaced by AI. Come on. You still have to have that human element. So again, all of that is just talk. It's just talking, guys. That's all it is. And that's all it has been. It was going on in the 90s. It was going on in the 80s. It was going on since then. That they're saying, oh, it's going to go away. It's going to go this. No. So stop listening to other people. Pay attention to what you're doing, because trust me, if that was the big takeover, don't you think it would have been all over the news? So I'm just going to say that. And keep studying for your exam. Stop listening to other people. That's my final thing. I'm going to get off the soapbox, and I have no idea what RCM means. But again, yes, there's going to be doctors who select their own codes, but it doesn't necessarily mean they're always correct. And when they're selecting their own E&M levels, again, doesn't mean they're always correct. Same thing with the procedure codes. That's why being really good with medical coding is going to help you go a long way. But you have to study so that you can get good. But that is my whole thing. And it's irritating when I see people people that are not even in the field trying to say these horrible things. Like, are you even a coder? No, then sit down, okay? That's what I always say, sit down, please. Because unless you're a coder speaking and you have some advanced knowledge that we all don't have, then okay. Other than that, no. All right. What do we have here? I saw a lot of comments coming in. Lots of congratulations for Jamie. Hi, Gemma. Long time no see. So true. Don't listen to negativity. Tina says surgeons are terrible. Their patients are always asleep. And then she puts a laughing face. Thank you. I have been feeling slow. E&M blowing my mind. Ellie says, you are right, Blue. I never tell anyone that I'm on medical coding studying because I know they'll just try to discourage me. I'm an online course right now and 6 months of studying quietly. There you go. Liz says 100. There you go. Hi, Edel. Tina says, I'm so blessed. Everyone is very supportive. Maybe newly divorced and re-entering into the job market after 20 years of stay-at-home mommy could lose her crap. Mental breakdown prevention, possibly. And Liz says have several seats. I like that. The thing is, this career field will be what you make of it. That's the bottom line. It's going to be what you make of it. Some people get into it because they see the money and that's what they want. That's the wrong reason. That's why I never talk about money in specific dollars on my channel. That has been a hard staple of my channel since it began. So with that, I'm talking about the field itself and how this career field can carry you. This career field has carried me through some of the hardest times of my life. It has provided a very comfortable life for me. It has taken care of me. It has nourished me intellectually, and it has put me around people that I would have never otherwise been around. And I wouldn't trade it for anything. So if this is what you want to do, then you do it. When it comes to the transferable skills. Now, people say, well, Blue, I'm brand new and I don't have any experience in medical coding. What can I do? So if you are looking at your resume, and write your resume yourself, guys. Yes, I do resume reviews. But the thing is, when it comes to the resumes, I always tell people, I encourage people first to write the resume yourself. Somebody asked me today, what does high school math and grammar, English grammar, have to do with medical coding? Let me tell you, We have very basic math in medical coding, like plus minus. Okay, when you're looking at like the area of like wounds and stuff like that, very simple. And if you're doing the billing, very simple formula math, plus minus, some division, some multiplication. So you do have to know a little bit of that stuff. When it comes to grammar, grammar is key. Do you know why grammar is key? Because sometimes you may be called upon to send an email to your provider. Now, if you cannot properly address a provider, which I have seen, and it makes me so upset when I see somebody call a doctor and they know they're a doctor because they're dressing them, right? They're dressing them. They call them Mr. or Sir or Ma'am or Mrs. Are you kidding me? When you are addressing a provider, you always address them by their proper salutation. Doctor so-and-so, doctor whatever, or Miss so-and-so PA, Mr. PA. That's how you address them. Not ever Mr. or Miss. If you didn't know them and you saw them on the street, maybe then that's something different. But because you are a coder and you know what they are, you know their title, then you address them appropriately by their title. And there's a lot of people that miss out on that and just call them Mr. or Miss so-and-so. Can't do that. You have to have some basic knowledge of grammar. Grammar is very important, so is writing. And a lot of people, well, I don't want to do that, I just want to do coding. Doesn't matter what you want. This is what the job is going to call for. It's going to call for you to be able to write queries and write them appropriately, where you're not leading the provider, you are giving them the appropriate options. You're going to be called upon to send emails when there are updates, when you have to let them know of something, and you need to be able to formulate an appropriate sentence and use proper words and proper English and proper sentence structure. I've seen people who think that it's okay to put you instead of Y, instead of spelling it out, Y-O-U, they put the letter U. Guys, come on. And that's what you're sending to a provider? No, never. You can never do that. It is never okay. No matter how cool you think you are with a provider, never. You have to always be proper, because trust me, they're very educated and they're going to look at anything and everything that you do. So you got to be able to bring your A game. That's why it matters. And when you're talking about transferable skills, now we're getting into that. Everybody, or at least everybody that's been in school, right, for the past few years, should know how to use Microsoft Office, Outlook, Word, Excel, PowerPoint. If you don't know how to use PowerPoint, that's fine. There's plenty of YouTube tutorials out there. If you don't know how to use Excel, again, there's plenty of YouTube tutorials. You need to have that on your resume. Blue, that's just common sense. People know how to use a computer. Not all people know how to use a computer. And when you're looking at these job postings, they're going to ask you, do you know, candidate must be able to know how to use Outlook, Word, Excel, PowerPoint. So put that on there. If you had any experience while you were in school with an encoder, like a 3M encoder, put that on there. Any kind of encoder software, any kind of electronic health record training that you got, put that on there while you were in school, right? Anything that you learned in the school, you need to put it on there. Your medical terminology and anatomy should always be on there. And your training in ICD-10 CM and CPT and HCPCS level 2, and if you had training in the inpatient coding, the ICD-10 PCS, you need to have that all listed on there in its entirety. ICD-10 PCS, ICD-10 CM. None of this ICD-10 or ICD training. That's not acceptable, because again, when you are sending your resume in, it's going to go through a electronic gatekeeper. And when it runs through there, it's going to see that this information is incomplete, and it's going to pass your resume over. So that's why a lot of times when you're sending resumes out, and if it looks like very bland and it's not detailed enough, it's going to get passed over. So save yourself some frustration and make sure that when you're listing your skills that you put on there that you have ICD-10 CM, CPT, HCPCS, ICD-10 PCS, all of those. Your medical terminology, your anatomy, and pathophysiology needs to be on there. Outlook, Word, Excel, PowerPoint. When you are your English, do you have English fluency, written and verbal. If you are bilingual, you need to list your other languages that you speak. Now, before people question me, why would you put your other languages on there? Sometimes when I'm looking at these job postings, and particularly when I've seen a lot of them in Florida, they say bilingual bilingual Spanish is preferred, or bilingual whatever language is preferred. Now, why would they have this? They expect their staff to be able to fill in where there's going to be a need. You don't know who your provider is what community they're servicing. So if they are servicing a population of people that they may need you every once in a while, or if you're doing the billing, to be able to speak to the person so that way they know what their bill is and what it consists of, or whatever the case may be. That is when you are called in. That makes you more valuable. So make sure that you put that on there, that you're bilingual, okay? And again, on your skills list, put down if you are fluent in written and verbal for that particular language. So that is what I recommend. Even if it is just English, that's fine, because you'll see that a lot in the job postings. Candidate must be fluent in English, written and verbal, because they expect good grammar out of that person when they're writing emails. They expect a person to speak professionally when they are speaking with providers. And that is very important. It is an image thing. It is a way for these providers to be able to respect you. That has a lot to do with it. When it comes to how your providers treat you, what you bring to them is the way that they're going to treat you. If you have a lackadaisical approach, like you don't care, that provider's going to say, oh, that person doesn't know what they're doing. If you tell them, oh, I don't know, I'm new, it doesn't matter. What you need to say instead is, well, I need to bring you that reference. Let me go get my book, or let me go find a reference for you, and I'll be right back. That's all you have to do to turn it around into a positive. So there's a lot of things that you have in your past that you've been doing. These are soft skills, yes, but they can still go on your resume along with the things that you've been trained for medical coding. If you did any cash handling, that's a good transferable skill, especially if you're applying for billing positions. That is going to go a long way. Okay, this person has handled cash. They know how to use a credit card machine. They've made deposits. If you were working at like Burger King or something, and maybe you were doing some of the deposits and you handled those deposits, or you balanced your register and things like that, or you're a cashier that you handled money, that goes a long way in putting that on your resume. Something that is going to translate over to being a medical biller is a good thing. If you were in the medical field on something else, maybe you were a CNA or an LVN or even an RN or an LPN or even a radiology tech, and you were working in an office. I had one person who's a dental assistant. Okay, so then you understand HIPAA. Having HIPAA on your resume goes a long way, because you know how to protect patient information. You've been trained. You are well aware of this. This is very important for medical coders, because we have to be able to keep these records secure. We can't just be going around willy-nilly talking about patients, and in particular certain patients by name and oh, they have this and they have that. We need to be able to keep a secret. Somebody who has HIPAA already on their resume, okay, this person is speaking like a coder. So when you have that, then you're doing good. And if you're checking in patients, are you making sure that all of their information is full and complete? Are you doing those extra checks as far as like making sure that it's the correct patient and they're talking about the correct situation or whatever? That's attention to detail. So that's what you want to put on your resume: attention to detail, verifying patient information, verifying patient insurance, those types of things. Whatever you did when you were working in the medical side, you need to be able to put that on there as a way of showing, hey, I have these transferable skills. Not that you are talking on there like you want to be a nurse again, because I've seen nurses do that, where they have their resumes and it sounds like they want to be a bedside nurse again, but instead they need to look at, sorry, I thought I had put it on. I bet you Uncle Carl is going to call again. What did I say? I declined it for a reason, Uncle Carl. So anyway, when you are going through these and you are a nurse and you're trying to think of your transferable skills, don't talk about how you handled patients and you did all of these things. Talk about how you documented the vital signs, and that you verified the correct patient, and that you maybe verified insurance and that kind of thing. So those are things that are transferable to what we do as far as like filing those records. Did you file those records away? What else did you do? Don't just think about your nurse activities. Think about all of the other stuff, the administrative things that you did. So that may help. And the same thing goes if you were in the dentist, if you were a dental assistant. Sometimes they take the patient insurance and they do all the verification. It really all depends. My dentist is that small that the hygienists sometimes help out. So that is what the thing, what it does. But if you are looking to be a dental coder, keep in mind that a lot of times these dental offices are really small, and sometimes it is the spouse of the dentist that is actually doing a lot of the billing, and they take care of a lot of that paperwork. And so sometimes they may not be willing to hire a medical coder, even though you may be able to show that you could potentially find out where they're missing something, and where they could potentially gain more revenue because maybe they aren't billing for a certain thing that they didn't even know they could get. It's just a matter of getting in there and working with what you got. So again, it is a great field to get into. It is something that you can think about all of your skills. And if you can't think of how they are relatable to your field as being a medical coder, write them down and see how it can transfer over. If you are a secretary, obviously you come from an organized background where you were able to keep files and you were able to have good interpersonal skills. That is very important. When you have the ability to be able to work around different personalities and lots of chaos, that needs to be on your resume as well, because people who are able to handle stress, even though we don't want to constantly handle high stress, we will see some job postings say that the candidate must be able to handle stress. They must be able to be a self-starter. In your positions before, were you a self-starter? Did you have to open the store? Did you have to open up the doctor's office? Did you have to do any of those things? Were you responsible for the keys and that kind of thing? So that way they know, okay, this person's a self-starter. They can work independently. They don't need a lot of direction. It's just a matter of giving them a chance to start as a medical coder. So believe me, you've got a lot, from everybody who started off in fast food to people who worked in housekeeping, people who did office work. There's something for everybody, and everybody's able to get in. When I started, I was a bartender. I worked as a bartender. I worked at a halfway house. I did housekeeping, and then did all of these things while I was looking for a job in medical coding. So I had all of these transferable skills. Now, I've always been a good writer because that's what I like to do. I like to read and I like to write. And so being able to put all of this down on paper did help me. Also, applying with the temp agency helped me too. So that is something that you have to think about. Not just because, oh, I don't have a background at all in medical, does not mean that you are discounted in any way from getting into this field. I'm just saying. All right, so what do we have here? Gemma says, yes, long time no see indeed. I've been taking my course for medical coding. I passed my final exam and I'm getting ready to take my CPC. Hopefully I pass. Hi, Alice. A lot of congratulations. Tina, oh my God, are you serious? You are so so fired from corporate Wells Fargo if that happened. It's not a text. Did I miss something? Did I miss something, Tina? What did I miss? Did I miss something? I'm not sure if I missed something. I'm not sure if I missed something. Alice, I'm taking a medical coding online through a college, and I'm now getting into electronic medical records. Before I had a class for computer and English classes. Tina, can I list inpatient coding classes without being certified on a time crunch? You can list your training in ICD-10 PCS, yes. They'll know what your certification is by your certification. You know, just because you had the training doesn't necessarily mean that translates over to your credential. But even if you do take like the CPC, I've seen CPCs get cross-trained into the inpatient side. So Tina says, if the skills were in a business setting, still list with the appropriate job? Of course. Worked at State Farm as a customer service, then sales. I am assuming that the future employer won't know. The project manager for Wells Fargo also trained and wrote documentation. Hi, Lauren. Thank you for the blue heart. You instead of you. Oh, wow. Vicky says, will it be easy to make the switch over from outpatient to professional coding? I need to clarify your question because it can go two ways of what I'm thinking that you're thinking. So please elaborate, Vicky, on your question. Lauren says, I saw a job listing today near me that says RHIT/coding certified required, experience preferred. And if you've been on my show before, you know preferred does not mean required. Facility coding. Okay. Now you're saying something different. Facility coding is on the inpatient side. Professional coding is the outpatient side, or it is the pro-fee coding. And then, of course, outpatient is all outpatient. It's your clinic visits. That's all your professional side. So, I'm still lost on your question, Vicky. Help me. So are you trying to go from outpatient to inpatient coding? Is that what you're trying to say? Lauren says, I've never seen one that says experience preferred. Excited. That's good. I'm waiting on Vicky. But I hope you guys know that listening to other people can steal your dreams. So don't do it. Don't listen to other people, especially when they're being negative. Now, it's different when somebody's giving you the real talk. That's something different. But being negative, like, oh, it's going to go away. And, you know, outpatient ER to outpatient professional side. It's still outpatient coding. If you're going from the ER to like the clinic, that's still outpatient coding. You're not using obviously E&M from the ER. You're using like the 99202 to 99215. That's all the outpatient E&M levels, right? So that's what you're looking at there. But it's still the same diagnosis coding. You still have to code what's definitive versus, you know, you don't pick up things that are maybe, likely, suspected, probable. Because that's, you know, on the inpatient side when you're picking up things that the doctor is treating the patient for, because sometimes they don't know. But does that answer your question? Hopefully. Hopefully it does. Cherie says, hi, Blue, I'm loving your stuff. Do you recommend a material on CDI coding? Do you have any material on CDI coding that you recommend? Of course, I recommend CDI. There's books from Optum360coding.com about CDI that I recommend. I also recommend, if you are willing to go through a semi-expensive program, it is expensive, it's costly, but it is worth it, I say. Lori Prescott is the one that is behind this, is the HC Pro CDI boot camp. So I do recommend that through HC Pro. It is a very good course. I took it earlier this year myself. It was very intense, not gonna lie, but it is good. It was really good. And again, Lori Prescott was the one behind it. So, you know, that is the best education you could possibly get is from her. At least that's my advice anyway. Alive says, hi Gemma, just remember that your answers are in your books. Keep practicing, you got this. Yes, that is true. When it comes to looking at your books have the answers. So make sure that you are reviewing the books. I've always told you guys to actually physically review all of the pages of your books. So that way it can soak into your brain. You don't have to read everything, but just taking each page in and looking at it so that way you can get really familiar with your books. The worst thing that can happen to you when you are in your test is that you freak out and you don't recall where you saw this or that. If you are getting familiar with the book, you're not going to need tabs. You are going to be able to flip where you need to because you have been using the book so much, and you won't have to be dependent on those little tabs. Just saying. Vicky says, what? Tina says, what is CSU? CDI. CSU. CDI is Clinical Documentation Improvement or Clinical Documentation Integrity. It is fairly new. It's been out, but it is fairly new. Actis is the association that I do recommend, so I'm going to go ahead and leave that. I don't know if I answered your question, Vicky. Maybe I'm just not understanding. If you're interested in CDI, that's actis.org. That is the association that I recommend for that. See, I think it's HC Pro. HC Pro was the boot camp. Let me pull it up. Do I have it in here like this? Let's see. Where is this a website? I think it is. Yes, it is. This also has programs where you can learn about CDI. So I'm leaving this in the chat box. Liz says, speaking of Optum 360, are the current procedural coding expert books equivalent to the AMA CPT book? Also, do you recommend them? No, I don't, because of the simple fact that I don't want people to get confused. And especially if you are a student and you're studying, stick with the AMA book. The only reason that you should be even looking at the current procedural expert is if you are already a medical coder and you're working in the hospital. That is the only time that it is going to come in handy for you. So other than that, if you are a student, you need to leave that book alone for right now. Get familiar with your AMA version. This is the book, whether you are taking the AHIMA exams or the AAPC exams, this is the book that you need. This is the only book that is acceptable when it comes to CPT. The current procedural expert is not acceptable at all for the coding exams. Only this one when it comes to CPT. So keep that in mind. This is the only one, both of them. Now it is tabbed, before anybody asks, it is tabbed because I demonstrated it for you all. I will be pulling those tabs off later. Sherry says, thank you so much for the CDI info. You're welcome. Okay, then I guess it just went completely over my head. Maybe I'm not understanding like what you're saying. because it is outpatient. So okay. Can't please everybody. I don't know. I don't know. All right. So getting back to what is prone coding. Okay, why are y'all coming up with these? Pro fee. Okay. Pro fee is when the patient is staying in the hospital, right? Patient staying in the hospital and they are admitted on the floor. So obviously you have your inpatient coding. And then you have a visiting doctor that needs to get to see the patient as well. Say for instance, they were admitted under the endocrine team, right? And they also have a problem with their foot. Perhaps this is a diabetic patient and they have a foot ulcer. Well, they need to bring the podiatry team in. So the podiatry team comes in and they visit the patient. Well, it's outpatient, but it's inpatient. The patient is staying in the hospital versus being on the outpatient side where they come in to the clinic, they have their visit, and then they move on, right? When they are staying in the hospital, it is the professional fee because the doctor has to come in and they get paid for their professional services. This is not anything to do with facility coding, which the facility coding, that is the inpatient side. Now, I have done several videos where I'm talking about the difference between inpatient and outpatient and who does what, but the pro fee coding, that is what is called pro fee, when the professional comes in to visit the inpatient and they have to get paid for their services. And it starts at 99221 is the beginning of theirs, and then I think it goes to 99, don't ask me. Let me see what it goes up to. So it's under initial hospital stay in the E&M. No, that's inpatient consultations. I never flip to where. Okay, initial hospital care starts with 99221. Subsequent hospital care starts at 99231, and it goes all the way to 99233 for the subsequent hospital care. Initial is the range from 99221 to 99223. So it follows the outpatient rules as far as like we don't code things that are probable, suspected, likely, maybe. We code what is definitive, so it follows that. But that is the E&M code set for that setting in the pro fee side. But yes. Okay, it's not your fault. I was trying to figure out, Vicky, I honestly was trying to figure out what you meant, because when I hear facility, I automatically think to the inpatient side. And yes, in the beginning, sometimes it is confusing, like which way are you trying to think? What are you trying to ask? So it's not that, oh, it's, whatever, that you couldn't word it right. You don't know. And what you don't know, I mean, it doesn't make you that. It just, you didn't know. And so that's why I was trying to get you to talk a little bit more about like, what did you mean? So that way I can understand. This has nothing to do with not knowing or whatever. It is trying to get it like, okay, I just want to make sure that I'm saying it right, because that's why I was like, okay, well, are you trying to talk about inpatient coding or are you trying to talk about the pro fee side? And pro fee is exactly what I just talked about. So I hope this is okay now. I hope we're okay now. Thank you for asking. But yes, that is what pro fee. Because I was just like, even Lauren, I was like, prone coding. I was like, what is that? Why are people coming up with these different things? Jamie says, prayers for my nerves to calm down. I go in the morning to watch the ladies do billing. You're going to do great, Jamie. The thing about it is you have to give yourself a break. When you are brand new, you're brand new. You've never done it before. That's why I never understand when people say, well, I'm so nervous and I'm terrified. You've been trained. And you're going to have your first day. We all have our first day. But don't think so much about it that you're thinking you're going to sabotage yourself, right? So go make sure that you're taking notes. Whatever you do, take notes on everything. When they're explaining something to you, get a paper, write the things down. Because there's nothing worse when somebody's brand new and they don't want to take notes because they think they know. And they're like, well, you know, I don't need to take notes, or I don't want to look stupid, so I won't take notes. When you have to go back and ask questions again and again and again, yeah, that's when it's going to be an issue. So, you know, that you don't want to have to do. So always make sure that you're going back and that you are writing down notes. I have trained many people in my time as a medical coder. I've trained many people. And I've always seen two types of people. I see the ones that take the notes, and I see the ones that don't take the notes. Now, I am a very patient person when it comes to training. I will answer the same question again and again and again. But after a while, if I don't see that they are actually taking notes, because I'll say, did you write this down? Well, no, I'll get it. And I'll let that slide. I'll let it slide maybe once, maybe twice, depending upon the situation and what's going on. But if I keep having to, I'm going to tell you this is the last time that we're going to talk about this. Well, okay, well, maybe I should write it down. Yeah, maybe you should write it down. And it does help because I never get the question again. So it's important to write stuff down, okay? Always ask questions if you are unsure. That's the best thing that you can do. Tina says, remember, we are dealing with autocorrect. It's not you, it's the tech. All right. Tina says, pro fee is like when you are inpatient and your internist pays a visit, not just hospitalist. Okay, and then Vicky says, no worries, it was just my way I described. Thanks. Jamie, I'm taking a notebook. Good. Lauren says, writing helps to commit to long-term memory too. What is EPIC certification? So when you are working with the electronic medical record, EPIC, then you're going to want to get certified with them. That means that you've been trained in EPIC. Now, I do not work with EPIC. Not every facility works with EPIC. EPIC is pretty big, but not all facilities use it, okay? So it really all depends on the facility that you work at. If you have experience, great, put that on your resume. If you don't, that's okay too, because if you get hired on a place that they use EPIC, then you'll be able to get trained, you know, there. Because employers will train you, but they will train you on the electronic medical record that you're going to be working with, the encoder software that you're going to be working with. They will train you on that. It is the medical coding part that they don't want to have to train you on, because they shouldn't have to train you on the medical coding part, because you should already know based on the fact that you have your certification. Is that right, Profi? Are you asking about Profi, Tina? And if you guys are getting value out of this video, hit that thumbs up. Any movement on my channel means that YouTube will push my videos out to more people, so that way it can help more people, because that is what I am about. Even if I'm giving you guys the straight information that you don't want to hear and you don't like me, the minute that I say it and you think, I'm never going to watch this girl again, and then you think about it later, yeah, well, you know what, she was right. I'm just saying, guys, I'm doing this for you guys. So if I make not friends and enemies, and then you think about it later, that's fine. I don't care. Somebody's got to tell you, because otherwise you're going to listen to your friends who are going to discourage you from getting into medical coding, potentially missing out on something that would be really great for you. Not everybody knows the potential that you have, and especially when you run around telling people, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And I get it. Some people are very excited about what they want to do in their career. And sometimes people think, well, so-and-so thinks they're too good because they're going to school and they're going to be this medical coder. Well, I'm going to discourage them whatever way I can. Oh, I heard that they're not going to do very well, or medical coding is going to go away because of artificial intelligence. They've been saying that for eons. Ridiculous. Tina, no, I was just clarifying my understanding. I am a professional patient. Lauren says, does the company usually pay for Epic certification if you don't have it? If they're wanting it, yes, I guess. I don't know much about Epic certification. Let's see. Since you guys are asking about it, certification cost. Oh, they actually have the cost. Epic certification costs anywhere between $500 and $10,000, with an average amount spent on the program at $5,000. Remember, individuals do not pay for certification costs. They are sponsored by their companies. So, the road to Epic certification, why should you do it? There's this whole article from the University of the People. You know, guys, I don't believe in all this mishigas, as far as like getting certified for everything. If your employer wants it, then they can pay for it. But I mean, other than that, if you're working at a place, your employer is going to give you that training anyway. So to me, it's just like, we have all of these things where you can just spend money. Vicky says, true. Lauren says, just curious because I see the ones that say Epic is preferred. Cherie says, or Sherry? I'm reviewing claims that my providers enter for accuracy, but I'm not abstracting. What's considered industry standard for the number processed on a daily basis if I'm not abstracting? That's really up to the facility, because facilities have different rules when it comes to that. If you're not abstracting, then you're just you're reviewing for accuracy, but you're not abstracting. So what do you do if you find errors? And how is that factored in? I mean, if you find something that's an error, do you send it back, and are you given credit for that? I mean, I've never heard of that. I've never heard of a coder who just looks at the charts for review and not abstract at all. I've never heard of that. Oh, you're welcome, Lauren. Tina says, Epic is a pain. I have not worked with it, just had providers not trained. A lot of back and forth to get a bill correct. Oh, here we go again. Oh. Not you, Cherie. Let's see. Cherie says, sorry, outpatient. I change errors. I know it's weird, right? Oh, okay. So you, let's see. Okay, good. So you're doing those things. So when you are coding, right? And sometimes you are basically auditing, right? Because you're looking at codes that are pre-selected by the providers, and then you're going through and you're correcting the codes. Sometimes you're adding codes or taking out codes depending on what's going on. So I've seen the standard for outpatient coders range anywhere between 80 and 150. However, recently, I have heard from people who are working in the ER who say that their quota per day is 320. Now, when you have a quota as high as 320, that's ridiculous, because then you're sacrificing quality for quantity. And according to our ethical standards, you have to be able to code appropriately. If you don't code appropriately, that leads to errors, that leads to fines, because then you're going to end up getting more money or less money than you should. And insurance companies don't like that. And that's when you start getting all these kind of fines. So working at a place that has a reasonable production standard is what you want to do. Again, between 80 and 150. 150 is pushing it, but 150 can be achieved if the documentation is really good, the providers are all on board, and everything is smooth sailing, there's not a lot of complexness, right? Complexity, then you're okay. But if you're working in clinics that have lots of comorbidities and everything else going on, then obviously you're going to need more time. Right now, my standard at my hospital, my facility, is 90 per day. And yes, my providers do select their own. And sometimes I am just going through and making sure that they selected the correct ones. However, sometimes because they are not coders, they have to get the codes changed. I have to change the code, and I have to change it to whatever is supported in the documentation. I have to make sure that the level is appropriate. I have to make sure the procedures are appropriate as well too. So that is what I do, and my standard is 90. It was 120 in the outpatient setting. When I started in the prophy side, I believe the standard was 25. But then they realized that that's entirely too low, because when I came in, I was doing a lot more than that. So the standard for production got changed. When you get proficient in a certain clinic, and which I was proficient in prophy, it was easier for me to hit those numbers and hit them higher. So I think it increased to 60 per day on the prophy side. But I mean, it really all depends. But then in the prophy side, you're abstracting. So you're actually having to be the one to select the codes yourself. And there's no pre-selected codes to select, to review. So, it really does fall on the coder. And that's why prophy, you may see the prophy standard is a little bit lower than your standard clinic, where they are already selecting the codes. Why the frown faces, Sherry? Vicky says, I've never heard that, especially with traumas that come through the ER. That's ridiculous. Oh, maybe that's why you were frowning. But yeah, I was like shocked. I was like, no, that's ridiculous. To be 320 per day, no. You're really sacrificing quality at that point. Lauren says, I know my aunt who works in health information admin said things were crazy when electronic health record came in to replace the paper documents. She had to ask the youngsters how technology works and then teach them the way that health information goes in. Funny how that works, right? It went the other way. Tina says, 80 to 150 scares me. It takes me forever to code while I'm working on my course. I'm a past salesperson, so a quota is scary. Well, that is the average. Okay, so let's just keep that in mind. 80 to 150 is the average. But when you think about it, okay, let's just think about 90 per day as being the average. So let's just say, for instance, that I hit my quota on Monday and I hit 90. Okay, so I'm good, right? And then the next day, I dropped down to 80. Okay, I had a chart that was a little bit harder, and I had to really kind of go back and forth with the provider. That is what that would be a reason that I would hit only 80. So then the next day, Wednesday, right? So I actually do 100 on Wednesday. So, okay, I made up from the day before the 10 that I didn't get to do. So now when you average out those 3 days, it averages out to 90. So that is what they look at. So even if you don't hit it every single day, it's okay, because they're going to take that into consideration, that there's going to be some days where things happen and you can't always hit your quota. And so then you'll be able to have these other days where things can kind of fly. It really all depends. Sometimes providers get really good and they're having a very easy clinic, and then you're able to just fly through that clinic and, no worries. And you can get through a bunch. And on those days when you have more time, because you went through the encounters pretty quick, it was very simple and straightforward, and you were able to get through those things, and you're on a roll, and you're able to do a few more, that's okay, because it makes up for those days where you have a shortfall. And if that happens, then you had those days where you did really good. And so it'll all even out. The thing about it is, people have to be put on production standards a lot of times, because sometimes people get comfortable and they want to goof off, and the provider, they still have to be able to get paid. The lights still got to stay on. And so to be able to do that and be able to maintain production, they say, okay, we need to get these and get them done as quickly as possible. So we're going to go ahead and give the people a quota. So that is what why they would have something like that. You do get time taken out for like your meetings. If you are going to a meeting, if you are going and you're having to do education and things like that, that time gets taken out. That is not production time. That is other administrative duties time, right? So for us, we have a meeting once per month. It is usually an hour, sometimes it's an hour and a half, and it's a coding education meeting. And that time gets taken out of my day. So instead of a 8-hour workday, it dwindles down to 7 hours or 6.5, depending on how long the meeting was. If I have to do any online training, I have to keep track of my time. Sometimes these courses online are 30 minutes, sometimes they are 1 hour. So I take that time out of the total time that I have for coding for the day. So there's very rare instances where I am not coding. If the system is all up and good and everything's good and gone and everything's okay, there's going to be rare days where that would happen. But it's just a fact of life when you are working as a medical coder. But yeah, all the other extra time gets taken out. So you're not held to 8 hours worth of production when you were only able to get 6 hours worth of production because you had other meetings to attend to. It's not fair for them to count that meeting time as production time, because then you got to hurry up and make up the difference. So Lauren says that she gets scared too. Any advice for self-studying coding student? Have you watched my videos? We had this discussion the other day. Makes sense. Lauren says, my coding professor said today that learning to code having never done it before is like learning foreign language, anatomy, and then learning the dialects, medical terminology, and coding is shorthand. That is a perfect analogy. Sherry says, how do you guys handle time off? If one person is out for the day, does someone else take and complete their encounters? That's a good question. I'm going to come back to that one. Denise, I worked for American Airlines and got fired. Back to coding. Oh my goodness. Tina says, Lord, it sounds like a manager style will be over the shoulder. No, not technically. It really depends, because I've had micromanagers before. But when it comes to how do you guys handle time off if one person is out for the day, does someone else take and complete their encounters? So the way that the coding and the coders are dispersed through the clinics is some people work in a team situation in their clinic. For example, the PT and OT clinics are handled by 2 coders because of the volume of encounters that come into those 2 clinics. I personally handle the orthopedics and podiatry clinic myself. Those are mine. They are mine. Nobody else touches those. But for a time, I did have a partner. And so my partner moved on to another position. Ortho and podiatry are mine. So that is the way that it is set up at my facility. And so when I am gone, those encounters will sit there until I get back. So that is the way that it's always been. When I worked with a partner, she was gone, and she was gone for a few weeks. I believe she was gone for 3 weeks at the time. And so because me and her alternated weeks, I did a week on, she did a week off. And so when it was my week, she was catching up from her week, her active week. It's called an active week. So she would have one active week, and it would take her 2 weeks to complete her one active week, because she got enough encounters in the day, right? And then as she was doing the active week, I was working on my inactive week. So basically I was taking the encounters that I had gotten from that 1 week, that was my active week, and I was completing them on that 2nd week. And then the 3rd week, I would go back and have my active week again. So whatever I didn't finish during my active week, I could complete it in my inactive week. So when she went on leave, I had asked her, I said, okay, I know you're going on leave, so let's go ahead and plan this. I said, we have an outside auditing company that comes in and they have random pulls. So you don't know what encounters they're going to pull from who's active week or what. So it's important to try to touch everything as fast as you possibly can, because you don't want to have to carry over into the following weeks. So she told me no. And I said, no. And she goes, no. And I said, okay, so you're going on leave for 3 weeks. And two of those 3 weeks are going to be your active week. And you're telling me no. And she goes, no. And I said, okay, we're partners. Why? And she said, well, our supervisor has not come up with a plan. Our supervisor has not come up with a plan. Okay, but we're adults and we're supposed to be a team. So what's the problem? She goes, no, you're not getting the records. And I said, oh, okay, fine. So I went to my boss and I said, she's not letting me. She's not turning over what she needs so that we can get it coded. And, everything can be touched and everything can be 100% coded, completed. And then she goes, well, don't worry about it, Blue. And I'm like, are you serious? I told my boss, are you serious? She goes, I said, she's actively blocking me from getting the records. Like, why? And then she goes, don't worry, I'll handle it. And so I'm like, I don't understand why we can't just get the records and work this out. And that way I know what to do. Because when I know what to do, then I can plan, not just to only take care of my stuff, but to be able to carry on for her stuff as well. Because we had she was like a floater who would help, but she wasn't strong in ortho and podiatry and all this other stuff. So I couldn't really think about her doing anything really difficult, but she could do stuff that was, just to kind of get through that time so that we can get everything done. And so I was like, okay, well, and she goes, my boss says, don't worry, I'll get the records for you. And so I said, okay. So my partner went on leave. My boss got the records and gave them to me. And she was like, I'm going to have the floater come and help you. And then just do the best you can, Blue. She was, I'm really not expecting too much because I know you already have a lot with your own active week. And I said, that's fine. So we got everything done between me and the floater. Now the floater, I looked through what was there, what was left from my partner, who had gone through and did every easy encounter that she could get her hands on. She skipped over a lot of stuff, but she did her quota, but she skipped over a lot of hard stuff. So not only did she fight me and not want to give me these records, but I was handed all of the crap that was left over, essentially. So there wasn't really a lot of easy stuff to give the floater, but I was like, okay, I'm just going to have to do the best I can and give her what is almost easy enough. And she's like, why? I'm literally, she's like, why did she do this? And I said, I'm not even going to ask. I'm not going to ask. We just need to get this done. So the floater was like, okay, I will go ahead and get this. And I did mine and I did hers. And we got it done, 100% done. So by the time she came back, she had no backlog at all. She was on her active week and ready to rock and roll. Okay, so fine. She gets back and she's like, oh, I noticed that you guys did all of the encounters. Thank you guys so much. She's sending this in an email. And I see this and I feel furious. I feel furious because of the simple fact that she fought me. She left the crap and we had to clean it up. It was cleaned up and it was all done. And then when the audits came through, hers got pulled for audit. Well, guess who did them? Hello. Guess what was correct? Hello. So I was like, okay. And I went to my boss and I said, did you see this? Did you see this? She goes, I know, Blue. She goes, but at least she said thank you. I said, no, this feels like a slap in the face. Because really, instead of just working with me and just giving it to me so that way I can get it done, why do we have to go back and forth like this? Why didn't you say something? Well, it's done now. All right. So that's what we do. And now, like I said, when I'm not there, it doesn't get done. But I'm lucky in the fact that I have my providers, they're very well trained, they know what to do. And sometimes when I do fall behind, as far as like when I go on leave and I have a lot of stuff to do, I'm able to catch up because a lot of the processes have been streamlined and I'm able to whip through those encounters. If I come across a batch of encounters that I have to kind of really kind of dig deep on, it's okay because it's not going to affect me as bad as if the clinic was out of control and there was a lot of queries to be done. It's not like that. I can literally get through it and be okay. So it really all depends on the leadership at your facility and your ability to be able to process a lot. And there's going to be times when you're going to feel stressed as far as like having to produce more because you're going to have to sometimes. And then sometimes it's going to be a little bit easier depending on the clinic and depending on what's going on. It's just a fact of life for us. But I stepped into the challenge and I was able to do it. So it's just some things that happen. Tina says, I'm so looking forward to dealing with all that office politics. Not, there is no me in team. That's correct. People can be so rude, says Lauren. Yes, they can be. They can be. I'm sure your supervisor was happy with how you handled the situation. Yeah. She saw that I grabbed the bull by the horns, but what are you going to do? Cherie says, that seems like it's better than us. We have to learn every single specialty and all the charges have to be submitted every day. Yeah, that is a lot. That is a lot. Are you working from a queue, just a single queue? Are you doing that? I'm curious. Tina says, some managers got the job because they were in the right place at the right time. Sounds like your situation. Makes you wonder, how did they get that? And sometimes people are promoted for that reason. I'm just saying. But I think when you're in a leadership position, and you don't even have to be technically in a leadership position, honestly, you don't have to be, to have those leadership skills. I have leadership skills because I've honed them. I had to get leadership skills because I was very shy for a long time. I was very shy. And in order to make myself more able to get my point across, I had to get that training for myself. I went through the Arbinger Institute. They came to our facility and they were giving us all kinds of training about how it's not about you, it's about the other person. And when I started to look at things like that, I was like, you know what, that makes sense. And I was able to see how it's not about me. It's about other people and how they look at things. Everybody has a different way of looking at things, right? When it comes to how I look at things, I draw on my experience. Like other people are going to draw on their own personal experience. There's going to be some people who have had very positive leaders, so they kind of take on those skills and pass them on to others. And then there's been people who have been under bad leadership for many years, so they kind of get like, and you'll see them, it's just like they just don't realize that they can be trusted because that's not what their leader had told them. If a leader is a true leader, they're going to allow that person to be able to have the creativity to be able to do what they need to do in order to get the job done. Look at the show CSI, the one from Las Vegas, right? Look at the lead character, right? And I know this is an old show. I'm probably dating myself. It's okay. It was a good show anyway. But CSI, remember Gil Grissom and how he did things? He was very by the book. He was very textbook, very smart. And the way that he did things was unconventional. That's why he worked on the night shift. And he had, everybody, Catherine and all of them, Greg and all of them. And he had all these characters with him. And they followed under what he said. And he was always getting barked at by, the chief and all them. Oh, you should do it this way. You should do it that way. But he always solved the case. Same thing with Dr. House. Dr. House does things his own way. But at the end of the day, he gets the job done because he does it his own creative way. Everybody has different ways of doing things. And when you have strong leaders, they allow the people to be able to do what they need to do in order to get the job done. Now, the way that my providers are trained now, if I had asked for permission for every single thing that I did in training them, I would never be as far along as I am. I do coding tip of the week for them. Once a week, I will go and send them an email, just a small, short email about just a coding tip or something that I've seen, just to kind of remind them, because it's all about repetition, right? And so I do that. And because of that, they've been able to like take this and learn just a little bit at a time. And that's why their documentation has gotten a lot more sharper. Had I asked for permission about it, then it would have been like, well, you know, we got to do this, we got to do that, we got to do this. And I understand following protocol for some things, but I think in some things like this, when it comes to learning, that it needs to be a continual process. And not everybody has all this time to sit in on meetings. Nobody wants to sit on constant meetings to be able to do these things. But if you have these little breadcrumbs, believe it or not, they will start to follow you because you're making it more manageable for them to learn. I know that's kind of off topic, but it's true. You know, when you have strong leaders, they will be able to do things. And again, sometimes you have to have that leadership skill in yourself to be able to get the desired results that you want. The desired results that I wanted was for my providers to be high performing. They are. And I know when they leave me and they go on to other facilities and other places, they're going to be prepared. And I tell them, you guys need to be prepared, because when you leave me and you don't have me no more, you don't know who your coder is going to be. And sometimes you may have a strong coder, and sometimes you may have a coder who says, well, I'm just here to collect a check and go home. I've had people in the department that are like that. So again, it really all depends. And this is why I always tell people to care what you're doing, care about your craft. So that way, when you are out there, you're actually helping people. And you get to learn a lot more. You get to do so many more things. And it's so much more fun. At least that's what I think anyway. Let's see. What is... Cherie says, LOL, basically yes. Lauren, rather than letting it slide or being like, no, I'm not doing it since they don't give me all of the information. Can you imagine House's documentation? You know, they actually had a show where he was talking, they go, Dr. Cuddy says, you are 3 months behind on your documentation. He goes, I'll get to it. And I'm like, I would hate that. And then he was at I think he was at an insurance thing, and he was having to argue why he prescribed this patient this off medication for her condition, because that medication was for males and not females. And he couldn't understand, they couldn't understand why he was prescribing an off brand. And he's like, well, you know, she has this and she has that. And he goes, they go, why are all your levels 5s? And I'm thinking to myself, oh, they're talking coder. They're everywhere. But yes, it is true. I mean, it is true. When you look at the shows like that, it gives you inspiration. At least I get inspired by those things. But what I do does not impact my ability to be able to do my job. It does not impact my ability to be able to hit my numbers and be productive. I've given a class, and you know, you would never know because I had already met my quota for the day. But I still had time for my providers, and I will always make time for them. And when that's what you do, that's what you do. But yes, and I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. All level 5s coding humor. Yes, that's true. I should make a shirt, right, that says level 5. That would be funny. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. Thank you guys so much for joining me. If you found value in this, I hope that you will share it. Like this, share this if it helped you, because it helps me with the YouTube algorithm, and it helps get my message out to more people, because I think the more coders that I can help, the better. And even if it is a straight talk, and even if you may not like the things that I say, just know that it's actually coming from somebody who actually does care. I'm just saying. Good night, everybody. Thank you all. Bye.